Welcome to The Shoreline, brought to you by Shores and Islands, Ohio, where finding your Lake Erie love is a sure thing. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Jill Bauer, PR Manager for Shores and Islands, Ohio, and we bring you The Shoreline every week to give you the inside scoop on what's happening here in our island and coastal communities. Welcome back to Season 2 of The Shoreline. We're so excited to be back and continuing to bring you interesting interviews and information about the fun attractions, insightful people, unique small businesses, and welcoming communities of the Shores and Islands, Ohio region. We are cruising right on through the month of January, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not upset about it. Some of our local attractions do take the month of January off to rest and recover from a busy holiday season, change exhibitions, clean, remodel, those kinds of things. So I always look forward to the end of the month when we can, anticipate those reopenings, those places that are kind of on a short break. We are recording this episode a little early, so I'm also optimistic that our cold snap has carried us through for a couple of weeks. I'm hopeful that our region is flooded with those people that embrace the cold weather and genuinely enjoy the great outdoors in the winter, especially the ice fishermen. So welcome to all of the folks that are fishing out on Lake Erie, and we hope that you are having successful catches. I'm, fingers crossed for solid ice for a good couple of weeks. If you're outside of the area and you're curious what's happening weather-wise, be sure to check out our live webcams. As always, you can find our events calendar. Yes, there's still a lot happening here at our destination. And you can find links to our social media platforms and those webcams on our website at shoresandislands.com. Today on The Shoreline, we're talking to one of those on a break in January attractions. We're anxiously awaiting their reopening in just a little less than 2 weeks. Reopening for the 2025 season on February 1st is the Merry-Go-Round Museum of Sandusky. And today, you can please welcome to the program Executive Director Curry Lewis. Curry is the Executive Director and Curator of the Merry-Go-Round Museum, originally from Findlay, Ohio. He has been with the museum for 17 years and has seen the expansion of the museum's collections with over 200 carousel figures on display, and now with the addition of the downtown Sandusky Cedar Point Historical Museum within the building's walls. Welcome to the Shoreline, Curry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, a lot of people don't know the history of your amazing museum, and I always love to hear this story. So, if you don't mind, I'm sure you've told it a million times, but can you start out with the story on how the Merry-Go-Round Museum came to be in
Yeah.
existence here in Sandusky?
Yep, absolutely. So our building used to be Sandusky's post office from 1925 to 1986. It housed many organizations from Customs and Immigration to the FBI to the Weather Bureau. And then once all those organizations started slowly moving into the Cleveland area, that's kind of when Sandusky decided we need a one-level building, much more modern. So in 86, they closed up and moved to the facility that they're at now. And then in 1988 is actually when the first carousel postage stamp came out. That postage stamp had 4 different figures on it, with one of them actually being the armored horse from the Kittyland carousel over at Cedar Point. So with the first day ceremony happening in October of 88 over at the park, a group of local citizens kind of decided, maybe we should do something in the old post office and just draw more people to downtown, see what people are interested in the carousel world. So they had about 15, 20 figures inside the building for this little second ceremony, so to say, for the stamp. And they were anticipating 300 people to show up, and actually over 3,000 people showed up for that. So from that, it was kind of the idea, like, there's a draw for this. Maybe we should utilize this building, see what we can do. So then on July 14th of 1990, we actually opened then. So this is actually going to be our 35th year of operation.
That's fantastic. Happy anniversary. What an accomplishment. And yeah, to draw 3,000 people for an event that, y'all had no idea if anybody would be interested in, and to keep it going all this time is just phenomenal. So
absolutely.
What is the museum like today? What is a typical visit to the Merry-Go-Round Museum?
So roughly, 20 years ago, we had anywhere from 50 to 60 figures on display. And then after our downtime this month, with the addition of some new figures and new items, we'll have roughly over 200 carousel artifacts on display, ranging from we have a greyhound that was carved in the year 1900, all the way up to carousel figures that were carved 1920s-ish. But we have a lot of other things other than just the carousel figures that a lot of people don't really realize the artistic value that goes into it. We have chariot panels, which are the seats that you sit on a carousel, all the way to the rounding boards and the scenery panels, which hide the gears on the center. So we try to encompass everything that goes in the carousel world. So as soon as you step in our front door, you'll be greeted by 25 menagerie figures, which are anything that is not a horse. So we have lions, tigers. Like I said, we have a greyhound. We also have a roughly 350-pound elephant that actually operated on a carousel in 1905. So there's just a wide range of things that you'll see as soon as you step in our front door.
And, once you get beyond the lobby, you can't help but notice that there is an actual living, breathing, usable carousel right
Yep.
there as the centerpiece of the museum. Can you tell us a little bit about that carousel?
Yeah, so that was a 1939 carousel. It was actually a traveling machine, so it traveled all throughout the Midwest. So a lot of people, seem to think because we're in Sandusky, it came from Cedar Point. That was not the case. It was a carnival machine. The Allan Herschel Company, who carved it in 1939, those ones were usually made to be traveling machines. You could put them up in one day, take them down the next, and then off you go to the next place. So it was all over the Midwest for its life until it came to us in 1992 then.
And from what I recall, it's pretty fast.
It is. Goes about 9 miles an hour, which is a little faster than a lot of the operational ones right now. A lot of those are geared down. You're able to adjust the speed on those. Ours always went 9, 10 miles an hour, so we left it historically accurate.
Oh, and another thing that I love about that carousel are those panels that you mentioned, kind of the artistic panels in the middle, that those on our carousel are reflective of the Shores and Islands region. You've got Thomas Edison's birthplace and, all of these different little sites from around this area.
Yeah, that's correct. When we purchased that machine, those scenery panels, which are the innermost panels on our carousel, they were gone, so we had to create new ones. And with that, when they put that machine together, they decided, like you said, it'd be a great idea to showcase local things. So the clock is on there. That's in the park across the street. There's a freighter on there, and like you said, Thomas Edison's birthplace is on there as well.
That is a very cool feature of it. And everybody that visits the museum gets to take a ride on the carousel as well, correct?
That is correct. Yep. You get one ride with your paid admission, and then we also offer additional rides for only $1 a person.
What a bargain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk a little bit also about the work that goes on there, some of the restoration and some of the actual artists that are carving.
Yeah, we have roughly about 15 wood carvers that are all volunteers to our organization. A lot of those guys, and we do have a couple ladies this year as well, which is nice. Most of those started kind of like in the duck decoy carvings and creating little Santa Clauses and everything, and then just kind of transitioned over into restoration for us. So we've actually, for the past probably 10 years now, been working for a client out in California where we actually restored 30 figures from an Allan Herschel carousel that they are working on putting back together. So for the past 12 years, we've been extremely busy with restoration. We get figures in that just need a little bit of work and we can get them out in about a month. And we've also had some that literally come to us in a box that we have to put back together. Sometimes we have to carve new pieces to fit into the original wood. So our guys, they are very, very talented in what they do.
And I believe every year they actually carve a new figure as well.
Yeah, we did used to do that. 2024 was the last year that we did that. We don't have a lot of time to work on.
You're
pieces.
busy with the restoration.
Absolutely. We have, I think they have 10 10 figures in the shop right now that they're working on, with an additional 12 waiting to be worked on. So we haven't carved a new piece for our machine in roughly 10 years. And like I said, this last one that we did for 2024, which was won by a lady out in California, actually, that was the last one that we're going to probably do. And that was a much smaller one. It was a quarter scale. So it was one you could literally pick up with one arm and carry out with you. But yeah, we're just so busy with restoration for clients all across the United States that we don't have time to create anything new at the
Yeah.
moment.
But what's really cool, I think, about you doing that work is that it's accessible for everybody that's visiting. Like the folks that are visiting the museum can actually talk to and interact with the folks that are doing the restoration and watch it happening.
Yeah, we have one guy that works upstairs in our shop upstairs, and he actually kind of creates his own custom pieces for our machine. So I guess you could say we have created a couple new ones for our machine, but it's been done by one individual. They are owned by him. He just kind of loans them to us. We had to move a lot of our restoration shop downstairs into our private shop just because of the scope of the work that we do.
Gotcha.
It's not really feasible to do it upstairs with all the dust and the primer and the tools that are needed that we have to have out at all the time. But we actually do once a year open our paint shop and restoration shop up to our members and our donors. So if anybody is really, really interested in seeing that whole scope of work and talking to our restoration crew, you can become a member of the museum. And every spring, we invite you to our open house. That is just a member and donor only invite. And you can tour the whole building. Actually, we open up our archives upstairs for people to see, because a lot of people don't get to see that either or really realize that we have that. We have a very, very large collection in our archives of photographs, historic photographs to new photographs to documentation from the 60s and the 70s when the whole carousel craze really started picking up. So
That's very cool. And, in addition to those events, you guys host some other big events throughout the year, both as fundraisers for your organization, but also just as events that bring people into the building for different things. Talk about some of those events that you have planned for this year.
yeah, we have a large list of events planned for this year, still working on some of those details for our 35th anniversary. But we actually will have International Museum Day, which takes place on May 18th this year. We have that one. And we also do July 4th. We do discounted admission all day. Our National Carousel Day is July 25th. So we offer discounted admission, unlimited rides that day. And then we also do the tree lighting ceremony on Black Friday, where we actually offer free admission in the afternoon with dollar carousel rides. So those are kind of some of our free and discounted admission community events that we do. But our big one that we've done for actually will be our 20th year this year is our Toast of Ohio Wine Festival that we hold down at the Jackson Street Pier.
That's a big fundraiser for you guys. I know you partner with different wineries. There's food trucks, there's musicians, so it's a wonderful wine festival. And I believe admission to the festival also gets you into the museum. Is that correct?
Yes, it does. So we have different packages that we started doing last year for pricing and everything like that. So you can see all those once our hometown ticketing link for that goes live. But packages start at $20, and you can actually come down to the wine festival for free if you're not going to sample any wine, which is kind of a misconception that we get a lot of
Oh, yeah,
questions
sure.
about. Yeah, because we have the Sandusky Art Walk joins us, and then all the wineries and the food trucks are all local to our region. The wineries have to be locally Ohio produced wines, so they're all relatively from Sandusky to Cleveland, and then all the food trucks that we invite are actually from the Sandusky area as well.
And it's a really a fantastic event. I know that everybody enjoys it. And, I always encourage people, if you are coming, just, if you're a wine connoisseur or you want to come to that you should take advantage of the fact that it includes admission to the museum because you want to see what you're supporting.
Absolutely. And if it's a nice day, it's a nice walk right up, Jackson Street all the way up to us. It's pretty much a straight shot. So we do encourage a lot of people, after you sampled your wine or you just need a little break from the big crowds, just walk up to the museum, take a couple spins on the carousel and come back down and join us then.
I don't know how those goes well together, drinking
So
wine and then a spin on the carousel.
So far, so good, because I think last year was our biggest number of wine festival attendees that did go up to the museum, and knock on wood, we didn't have any problems.
No issues. That's good. That's
Yes.
good. And what I also really love about the Merry-Go-Round Museum, I know you don't need another cheerleader, but it appeals to all ages, right? I mean, you see grandparents, parents, kids, everybody loves a merry-go-round. And to see grandparents talking about, oh, I remember growing up and going to this fair or festival or amusement park, and people that are interested in art just being enthralled with the details and those fun stories about the craft behind it. There's people that are just into the band organ music. There's so many things about the museum that appeal to different audiences.
Yeah, and that, like I said earlier, how we try to encompass everything that goes with this art form. We in the summer, it's funny. We get a lot of people that, oh, my husband or so and so sitting out in the car, they didn't want to come in. The family's in there for 30 minutes. They end up coming in the front door just to see what the family's doing, and then they end up paying admission because I think a lot of people, you think of a carousel, you think of horses, but that's why I put all our menagerie right in that front lobby. So as soon as they walk in, you see basically a life-size lion, and then you get a little bit of that history of it that, oh, okay, it was carved in 1905, and, they were able to do that then without any power tools. It was all done by hand, and you don't realize what it takes for this art form to be around. And then that's kind of just the draw to encompass everything that's involved, keep everybody entertained with it, and then a lot of people spend a lot more time in our building than they think they're going to, which is for us is a great thing.
Absolutely. So you have been closed for a couple of weeks, getting ready to kick off your, what did you say, 35th season?
35th, yes, yep.
Wow, that's fantastic. Is there anything new at the museum planned this year?
Yeah, we'll be adding some new figures in. We had a couple donations of figures from a collector out in California. And every January, I say I'm just going to change a few things, and I end up changing a lot more than I anticipate. But we do have a lot of repeat visitors that vacation up here in this area, and they always come every year. And even if I just move a figure to a different location, a lot of people, I don't remember that one last year, and it's like, well, yeah, it was here. There's just so much to see that even if I don't change things, you're going to see something new every single time you come because there's just so much to see. But yeah, I'll be putting some new figures in. We got two new band organs that will be on display. They're non-operational right now, but the artwork on the outside and just to see the size of these things, is pretty impressive in itself as well.
Oh, wow. And late in 2024, you guys had another museum, I guess I would say, take join you. It's the Downtown Sandusky Cedar Point Historical Museum, and we're actually going to be talking to them. And David came in from that museum on our next episode, so stay tuned, folks. But how did that come to be? How did that museum come to partner with you guys and share that space?
Yeah, so we had inside our building, we had what was basically our rental room for birthday parties and kind of became a little bit of a storage room because we just weren't doing as many Parker room rentals is what we call it. We were doing actually more full museum rentals. So that room was kind of sitting idle for a while. And David, who just has a massive collection of Cedar Point memorabilia, was actually knows Michael Young, who's on my board and is also in charge of the marina out at Cedar Point. So they got to talking. David was looking at some other locations and everything. And Michael said, well, stop down to the museum, talk to Curry, and he might have an idea. And so David came down one day, we got to talking, I showed him the space, we both kind of envisioned what it could be, what he wants it to be. And for about a month, we worked on some details, a contract and everything. And he started actually working on this in June or July of 2024 and was able to do a kind of a little soft opening, in November, December time. And now we're actually working with him to actually utilize some space right outside of that room to add more display cases. So much like our museum that's ever growing, his is already growing. So it was a a pretty smooth process. It was something that we thought could be beneficial to him, obviously, to showcase all his memorabilia, but also for us to kind of maybe tap into a different crowd. And what's
Yeah.
really nice about our agreement that he wanted to do and that we absolutely agreed with is that admission into his museum is included in your price to get into our museum. So it's two museums for one price with the ride on the carousel. So you're actually getting much more than you ever have in terms of what you get to see and what you get to view and do in our
Yeah.
sidearm museum.
And since you all, it all started with a stamp based on a carousel horse at Cedar Point,
Yep.
I think that's a really cool tie-in that now you have some of the local history, I guess a little bit more of the local history as it relates to the park.
Yeah, absolutely. He has, some old photographs of some of the carousels that were there. We actually have a reproduction of that armored horse from the Kittyland carousel, and also what they call the Ghost Horse, which was a carousel that used to operate back in Frontier Town that is now at Dorney Park in Pennsylvania. But we still have a fiberglass copy. Cedar Point still has the original carving in their planning and design building. So we were actually able to utilize those two fiberglass figures inside of his museum to kind of give that tie into why we're here, why he's here, just that whole it's all intertwining and all connected at some point.
Yeah, I love how it all works together. So, just kind of a couple of personal questions about you, Curry.
Yep.
What is your favorite piece in the museum, either on display or in your archives or whatever?
Yeah, so we have a E. Morris carved elk that was donated to us from a collector out in Roswell, New Mexico. And it's the only one that I've ever seen of the size that we have of that one. That manufacturer made other elk as well, but ours is just much larger. It's got a lot of mystery to it. We know what amusement park it came from, but it wasn't on that particular carousel at the time. And it's just one of those pieces that it just really draws you in. It's massive. It's just you look at our other deer that it's lumped with in our display, and it's just so much larger, the detail on it. And it's one of those figures that in 2014 we were actually able to put in the East Room of the White House. So it's got a little bit more of a story to it, and just it's one that's in our personal collection that is one that'll always be on display for us.
That's very cool. What a cool piece to have. What do you like most about your job at the museum?
Just the people that I've met from either in the carousel world or from people that have visited the museum. I have a lot of connections out in California now because of this job and everything in the museum. And like I said, the people that come into our museum, I mean, we've had people from Australia come in, we've had people from France, and actually the lady that came in from France, at the time, we had a 1890s cow that was carved in France that was in original factory paint with some writing on its neck. And we could never decipher what it was because come to find out, it was as what she classified as Old French, and it actually translated into mother-in-law that was painted on this cow
Oh,
that we had here. So
that sounds kind of derogatory.
absolutely, but it was just one of those like we could just never decipher because you would just get different meanings and everything. But
Yeah.
she was over here visiting. She was actually visiting up in Canada and decided to come down to this area and everything. And she visited the museum, and it's just it's just one of those where it's like I mean we get people from all over the world that visit our museum at some point.
Yeah, I love talking to museum directors. They always have all of these cool stories about people stopping in and all of those just really interesting tales about people that visit the area. Now you live here, you live in the region as well.
I live over in Catawba now, so that's where we're at.
What is your favorite part about living and working here in Shores and Islands, Ohio?
The lake for me has slowly grown on me, not being from here and never really visiting this area until I moved up here. My wife, she's originally from Marblehead, so she's been here all
Okay.
her life. And now we have two boys, and they're getting old enough that we're able to do things out on the water and enjoy that more. And then, like I said, with the people that visit the museum, you just see all these different people that are visiting here for essentially the islands and the lake, which is just absolutely amazing that we just basically have that right in our backyard.
I'm really glad that it's grown on you.
Yeah.
So back to the museum, you're getting ready to open. What are your winter hours and when will those change?
Yep. So we'll open back up on February 1st. We'll be open on Saturdays from 11 to 4 and Sundays from noon to 4 through the month of February. And then in March is when we will switch over to our spring hours. So from March through May, we'll be open Wednesday through Sunday during that time frame.
And then when you get into the summer season, are you generally open, is it 6 days a week or 7 days a week?
Yeah, 6 days. Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4. We actually open up earlier in the summer. And then Sunday stays noon to 4. And then on our quote unquote actual 35th anniversary on July 14th, that's a Monday, we will actually be open that day and we'll be doing free admission dollar rides. And we plan to have, some fun little things going on inside the museum just to kind of celebrate our 35th anniversary then.
That's very exciting. And you also mentioned that museum admission includes both you and the Cedar Point Historical Museum. What does it cost to visit for, individuals or families?
Yep. So it's for adults, it's $10, and seniors 60 and over are $7, and then kids 4 through 14 are $6.
Perfect. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about the Merry-Go-Round Museum?
Just, that we're glad that we've been a part of the area for 35 years now. And, we obviously plan to be around for another 35 years. And it's just something we're really gearing towards trying to get the locals back into the museum. That's kind of one of those things where, especially like during the tree lighting ceremony, the last time I was in here was when this was still a post office. So we're adding more free admission days just for people to kind of come in and look at everything. Yeah. And just with the addition of the Cedar Point Museum, there's obviously a big, tie to the area for that. So, with adding David in with us, you get a lot for your money, basically, is what you get.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that I think that you'll hit that goal of getting more locals to come visit because there's just so much to see in there. And
yeah, absolutely.
Special. Where can people go to get more information on the Merry-Go-Round Museum?
The best place to go for us is our Facebook page, just Merry-Go-Round Museum. We do have a website, merrygoroundmuseum.org, but we are always updating our Facebook page with new information, delays, closings that we may have through the winter time, especially. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Facebook's the place to go. We're always uploading pictures of things you may not get to see on your daily visit, so you get a little bit of behind the scenes as well. And then, of course, all of our events are right there on our Facebook page that you can see. We got a lot going on for our 35th anniversary, so just be sure to check us out.
Can't wait. It's going to be an exciting year.
We're ready for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Curry. Special thanks to Curry Lewis from the Sandusky Merry-Go-Round Museum for joining us today. Stay tuned for part 2 in this series next week when we interview David Kamen, director of the Downtown Sandusky Cedar Point Historical Museum, which is inside the Merry-Go-Round Museum. And of course, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a minute of the action here in Shores and Islands, Ohio. You can also find more information, including past episodes of the podcast, online at shoresandislands.com. We'll see you next time on The Shoreline.